Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. This is Dr. Omi with Essentially Omi, Artisan Soaps, Hair and Body Care. And today I'm going to be trying out what I call a gradient line pour for our French lavender and honey soap. But before we get started, please like and subscribe. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at essentiallyomi. Thank you. This is the first technique in our special edition series where I try out different designs to pour some of our more popular soap fragrances. Quick shout out to Royal Appleberry Soap, where I was inspired by one of her videos to actually try a line pour. This is our current French lavender and honey, which is a gradient pour where the soap transitions from one color into another. But I wanted to actually try to combine a gradient pour with a line pour where you can see a line design in the soap, and this is how it came out. So let's see how it all went. So of course, the first thing I'm doing is starting with my sodium hydroxide, my lye, and my water. I do have some ice cubes mixed in with my water so that I can hopefully keep the temperature of the lye water from getting too hot. I'm stirring it up well to make sure that everything is dissolved, checking the temperature, and I see that it is quite high still. So I'm just making an ice water bath to sit my lye water in so that it can start to cool off for me. Stirring it up pretty well to try to get some of that cool temperature to bring down the temperature of the lye water. And now I have here some of my harder oils. This is my RSPO sustainable palm oil that I like to heat separately, melt separately from the coconut oil that I use when I do the heat transfer method, which I'm doing here, which is when I'm pouring the hot lye solution, which has cooled to where I want it to be, and I'm pouring that over my coconut oil so that the coconut oil can melt using the heat, the residual heat from the lye. And here I'm just, fast forwarding so that you don't have to sit through me stirring it up. It does take a little while to stir up and to melt, but I find that the palm oil, because I used a water discount, I guess the reduction of the amount of liquid that I'm using, it causes the palm oil to take a bit longer. It doesn't always melt completely. So now that I've gotten that mixed and melted, I'm adding in the rest of my oils, and I'm really working hard to try to keep my temperatures low. Palm oil melts at 90 something degrees. Coconut oil melts at about 75, 76 degrees. And I want to sort of calculate where I need to be so that by the time I'm ready to start working with this soap batter, it'll be around 105, 107, but not any higher. If it's any cooler, it tends to, the harder oils will solidify first. So I'm just separating out some of my batter here. And because I do want to do a little piping on top. And I set that aside in the beginning. What I should have done is I should have just made a separate batter for piping, because as you'll see, it got really thick before the rest of the batter was ready for me to pipe on top of it. And I'm adding a little titanium dioxide. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the piping soap batter to be a little bit closer to the color that I hope my final color along the top will be, to keep that gradient, the shift in the colors to be a little bit more gradual, to get it to match. And here I blended the heck out of it to try to get it to thicken up a little bit faster, and it did. And it would have been totally fine if I had just done it separately, but it was moving a lot faster than the rest of my soap batter, which you'll see later. I'm using the Crafter's Choice, by the way. There's a purple mica that they have. I did a quick screenshot of that if you caught it. And I'm using actually yellow oxide instead of one of my other favorite yellow micas that I tend to use, because I wanted kind of a deeper yellow, sort of a goldenrod yellow. And it does make a nice deep yellow. So this is a little trick I picked up from another soaper on YouTube. I can't remember the name. Forgive me. If I think of it, I'll put it in a link below. But cutting up a grocery bag and putting your piping batter into those bags before you put it into your piping bag, your, baker's piping bag. It just kind of makes it a little bit easier to get it in there if you want separate colors. But what I also should have done is I should have put both colors into the same bag. And that's what I'm going to be doing the next time. So here what I'm doing is I'm just mixing up the rest of my batter. What I'm doing is I'm mixing up a small amount of yellow and a small amount of purple, and I'm doing a larger amount of the titanium dioxide colored batter that I'm going to be using to gradually lighten each of the batters. So here I've got my small mold set up. I've got Mike and Ike, my 2 wooden blocks I use to sit underneath to give me a tilt when I'm pouring my gradient pours. And I'm going in with the original purple and goldenrod yellow colored batters, and I'm just going to go ahead and pour those in first. Kind of turning it slightly as I pour so I can make sure I'm getting both colors coming down. So the next thing I'm doing is I'm going in and I'm going to lighten each of these batters with a little bit of titanium dioxide. And I'm super happy with how fluid this batter is remaining. If you are like me and you have a standard recipe that you love and use, I use about 60% hard oils and butters. And I find that it just gives me it's the magic formula for me for cleansing, for conditioning the skin, and for lather. So one of the things that our customers love the most about our soaps is that they have a great lather and they're firm. They last a long time in the shower. But I find that in order to keep this batter nice and fluid, you've got to end up with a soaping temperature that's going to be, I'm going to say at least 10 to 12 degrees higher than the melting point of your hardest soap, or higher than the melting point of the oil that melts at the highest temperature, which for me is palm oil in this case. And so I've lightened that batter. I've poured them back into the mold together to get both colors, and I'm just pretty much pouring all of that in, which is different from what I would do with a regular gradient pour. I wouldn't pour all the batter. I would just lighten as I go. But in this case, I'm trying to sort of judge how much I need to add to each section of the batter before I combine them and try to bring the color up gradually in sets. This was my first time trying this particular pour. I wanted to try to combine a gradient pour with a line pour because I really love the line design. And when I do this again, I'm going to go heavier with the initial maybe 1 to 2 pours to really get that heavy, darkest color in before it starts to lighten. And then I think another thing that I might do is I might go a little heavier handed with the titanium dioxide toward the second half of the pour. That way I can get more of a gradual color change. As you'll see in the photos at the end of this video, the photo at the end of this video, you'll see that there is definitely a color change, but it's more abrupt. And so when I try this again, and hopefully I'll have the time to film it, I'm gonna try to refine this technique. And I hope that other soapers will see this video and give it a try and let me know how it works out, because it actually was a lot of fun. I really love doing gradient pours, but I've been wanting to just challenge myself with some different techniques. So yeah. So in the process, again, it's just pretty repetitive. And I think I've gotten all the way to the end here of the pour, and I just pulled off Mike and Ike and to level my my soap mold out again. And I'm just sort of cleaning it up a little bit. Now here I'm testing out my soap batter that I want to pipe, and I can see that it is ready to pipe. It does keep its shape. It's great. But if I wait any longer, it's going to be super hard. And guys, I'm telling you, this soap was so lovely and fluid that I literally could not pipe onto it. I mean, the piping batter was so much thicker than the batter that I'd poured with that, you know, it just wasn't working. Here you can see me struggling to just even get the batter off of the tip. So what I did, and I mean, it worked out, but it wasn't ideal. But you know, in the future, like I said, I'm just gonna do two separate batters, or I'll separate off my batter, and I'll leave the piping batter at an emulsified state. I won't bring it to trace. And then I will sort of halfway through the pouring process go in and thicken it, and hopefully that would time things properly, or I'll just make a whole separate soaping batter. And then I know that the soap that I poured is going to be firm enough for me to pipe on top. This is the first time I've run into this issue. So yeah, what I ended up doing, as you could see, was I just sort of did some lines, some squiggly lines of the soap batter, the piping soap batter on top, just to give me a surface upon which to pipe. And that actually worked out. I mean, it didn't give me my sort of ideal results because I was using up the piping batter that I wanted to just, you know, use for my designs on top. But it did help me get through the piping process. Like I said, this soap was getting super thick in the piping bag, and I just, you know, I couldn't wait any longer. I had to do something or abandon the piping altogether, and I didn't want to waste any soap. So that's what I ended up with. I'm just going in with a little bit of diamond dust mica on top, just because I like the shimmer that it gives me. So yeah, this is what I ended up with. Cutting time. This is how the soap turned out. I think it turned out pretty well. I love the design. Meet Richard, YouTube family. This is my super amazing, awesome log splitter that my husband made for me. And I like it because I can cut these 1-inch bars, or I can, you know, make it bigger and cut 3-inch loaves or what have you. And this is how the soap turned out. As you can see, it is darker on the bottom. It gets lighter toward the middle and lightest at the top, but the color change is a bit more abrupt at the bottom that I would like for it to be. Next time I'm just gonna work to make the color change more gradual. Like I said, this is the first time I've tried this out, and it was super fun. It was really fun to challenge myself, and I really do like the way this came out. So this was the first video in our special edition series where I try out new pouring techniques for some of our more popular soaps. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in our next video. Thank you.